Pleasant Ridge is one of my favorite places on this earth. And the reason why it's a favorite place for me is because Pleasant Ridge is a place where Black people built community from nothing and found joy and started poetry clubs and literature clubs and lived what we would now say is their best life. So Pleasant Ridge is founded by two brothers, Isaac and Charles. Isaac and Charles had been enslaved in Virginia, and when their enslaver died, she freed them in her will. And they come to Wisconsin with her nephew, who is looking to dig lead. He gets here in the 1840s and realizes that the lead rush is really much done and decides to farm. And Charles had come with his wife and children because when Charles was enslaved in Virginia, he married a free Black woman, and so their children were free, and they had 3 children. And so they came. And Isaac, his brother, left his love in Virginia, and she had 2 children. They worked for their former enslaver's nephew, William Honer, for a couple of years until they had enough money to buy their own tracts of land. And once they had enough money to buy their own tracts of land, Isaac goes back to Virginia to get his love, Sarah Brown. I jokingly say to my husband on a pretty regular basis, do you love me like Isaac loves Sarah? And this is what I mean by that. Pleasant Ridge and Central Virginia are some 900 miles away. He works, he saves, and he travels nearly 1,000 miles to go get his love, to buy her and her children and bring her back to Pleasant Ridge. This is at tremendous risk. He could have been re-enslaved. He could have been kidnapped. And so I look at my husband and say, do you love me like Isaac loves Sarah? He didn't forget about her. He toiled for her. And he travels 1,000 miles to get her and 1,000 miles to bring her back. And they build family. They get married in 1854 in Grant County. They're legally married. And the Shepherds build a life at Pleasant Ridge. And they end up attracting more and more families. At its height, there are over 30 Black families that call Pleasant Ridge home. They build a church. They build a dance hall. This wasn't just about survival. This was about joy. Right? The women start the Autumn Leaf Club where they read poetry and literature and discuss life. They have extensive gardens. They're very successful farmers. They're growing wheat. They come from a wheat-growing region of Virginia in which enslaved people have been growing wheat in that region for generations. So they know exactly what they're doing. They're very good at what they do. And for the first time, they're able to expend their labors for themselves and their children. And they build this community. And it's just a beautiful thing to see how dedicated they were to each other and how they remain dedicated to their friends and family. Carolyn Shepherd, who was married to Charles Shepherd, has left us with letters. And so we know things about their everyday life. And I would actually like to read a bit of one of her letters. I received your letter a few weeks ago and hastened to reply as you found fault with me for not doing so sooner in your last. You had no business saying a word for an old married woman with her children to tease her. I do remember remarkably well. It gave me a great deal of pleasure to hear from you. However, therefore, I shall expect 2 letters to my one. I am quite well. My husband and children also enjoy excellent health. The children are growing very rapidly, and Catherine is quite as large as Lavinia, although younger. They send their love to you. You can hear the banter in their letter. They're teasing each other. They're talking about everyday issues. She's saying, I'm this old married woman now and I have all these kids. I have a garden to maintain. So I'll send you one and you should send me 2 letters. Right. But there is such joy in reading a letter like this because these are not just Black people surviving. These are Black people thriving. These are Black people who have found joy. And to do that in a slaveholding republic is an incredible thing to do, to harness that human spirit of not being bitter and angry and putting your energy into your family and yourself and your community is a beautiful thing to witness as a historian.